She was so evil, grass won't even grow on her grave. Trigger warning. In 1905, in Pineview, North Carolina, a little girl was born and named Jeanette. Jeanette's mother said, "It was summertime. We were out cropping tobacco when my water broke. My husband and father rushed me to the backer barn where we delivered our baby, whose cord was wrapped around her neck. She wasn't breathing. She was turning blue. My father took the goat hoof shears and cut the cord from around her neck, and that was when she took her first breath. From that point on, I called her my little miracle, but I had no idea just how much of a demon that child really was." Now, despite her family loving her and supporting her in every way, they noticed that Jeanette was displaying some very concerning behavior. Something was wrong with her. Jeanette began abusing animals and other children, and at 4 years old, she threw her baby cousin out of a window, permanently disabling him. At 7, she stole razor blades from a store, broke them up, and put them in her mom's food, but luckily her mom found them before she ate it. She lured a little boy out to the creek bridge, pushed him off the bridge, broke his leg, and left him there. He wasn't found until 3 days later. So, of course, all throughout school, Jeanette was a big bully, and she was constantly beating up and threatening other kids. By the time Jeanette was 9 years old, she had a long history of killing family pets. She killed 5 dogs, 6 cats, 4 goldfish, 17 rabbits, 7 hamsters, and 2 parrots. Why in the hell would her family keep giving her more pets? They were enabling a serial killer. Jeanette was 10. She lured 2 of her cousins and their dog out in the woods, and all 3 of them. The 2 cousins did survive, but the dog didn't, and she stole his tail. They never found it. They were kicked out of church after Jeanette was caught stealing money from the collection plate and feeding it to the toddlers in Sunday school, and she was also caught choking 2 other children. She couldn't be left alone with anyone. Jeanette's mom said, "For whatever reason, I felt like I messed up with Jeanette, so when she was 10, me and my husband began trying for another child." Why would you bring another child around this demon? When Jeanette was 12, we had our son. When we brought him home from the hospital, the first thing Jeanette said when she saw him was, "Wow, he would look really good in a pot of hot boiling water on the stove." And that was the moment I knew I could not leave her alone with her little brother. Gee, you think it took you that long to figure that out? She was so bad, the whole community shunned her and her family. They said, "Look, we don't want her at the church, the school, our house, at family gatherings. We don't want her nowhere near us." Now, despite her horrific reputation, by the time Jeanette was 16 years old, she met a really nice boy named Willie. He was 18, he went to a different school, and the pair began dating. Oh man, Willie, no, I know it's coming. She gonna kill him. Willie was a very sweet boy. He was a hard worker. He saved up his money, he got him a car, a place, and eventually they got married and moved in together. Jeanette would always threaten Willie, "If you try to leave, I'll take you out with the others. I'll put you in the ground with the demons. You don't want to with me, Willie." While on their honeymoon, Willie was hospitalized after Jeanette bashed him in the head with a statue because she said he wasn't walking fast enough. Within a couple of years of getting married, Willie had bought a farm and they were now making a good income by selling their crops. Jeanette did what she wanted. Either she stayed home, went out drinking, was at the bars, or was out with other men. At 18, Jeanette gave birth to their first child, a little girl named Gertrude, but within 3 months, the baby was sent to live with her grandmother. Because Jeanette tried to choke the baby to death after Willie bought her a dress. She said he was giving the baby too much attention. She didn't like that. By the time Jeanette was 21, she had gotten pregnant with another man's baby. Willie knew it was not his child, but he did not care because he was devoted to this marriage. Y'all, when Jeanette had this baby, she named him after the baby's father. She didn't name him after Willie. I can't with this witch. I would her ass. Willie adored Robert, and everywhere Willie went, he took Robert with him. He doted on him. He did not mind that Robert was not his biological child. Jeanette quickly realized that she could use the children to manipulate Willie into doing whatever she wanted and giving her whatever she wanted, so she quickly got pregnant with the next child, which was Willie's. The next child was a little girl that Jeanette named Janelle, and her father nicknamed her Birdie. But sadly, Birdie did not make it past 3 weeks old because Jeanette beat her to death and then threw her off a cliff and claimed it was an accident. Dang, she is evil. But everyone that knew them knew it was no accident because Jeanette had been badgering Willie to get her a new car, and when he said they couldn't afford it, she took it out on baby Birdie. She told Willie, "If you don't get me that car, you're next." And within a couple of weeks, she had a new car. I would have took that car and run her ass over. Willie said, "I should have known something was up when she said she was going to take the baby for a walk. She never did that. And unfortunately, by the time I realized what was going on, it was too late." Now, before we hate Willie, let me just say, Willie grew up in a very toxic household where he was abused by his parents and he was nearly killed multiple times. People believe he was also on the spectrum, and now he's a victim of domestic violence, and they think that's why he was so afraid of her. So within a couple of years, they had gotten pregnant again, and Janelle had another little girl, and this time she named her Bernadette. Now, when Jeanette had Bernadette, Willie took the baby when she was like 2 days old to his family's house because he was afraid that Jeanette was going to kill her. Within 3 months of having Bernadette, Jeanette was pregnant again by another man. So within a year of having her third child, Jeanette is now having her fourth child, a little girl who she names Willadine. Now, Jeanette doted on Willadine, and people think the only reason she loved her so much much was because Willadine's biological father was Jeanette's high school sweetheart who she was still in love with. Now during this time, Willadine, the last child, she's already up a few years and she's acting just like her mother, if not worse. So now Jeanette has all her kids back and she favors Willadine, and her and Willadine make the other kids' lives a living hell. So before long, Jeanette was pregnant again, this time by Willie, and they have their fourth child, a little boy they call Jacob. The only reason Jacob survived was because Willie kept him on his shoulder with him at work 24/7 so they couldn't hurt him. So by her late 20s, Jeanette has her last baby, a little girl who she names Geraldine. All the remaining kids feared their mother. They were terrified of her, and they learned pretty quickly, if you want to live, you better stay away from mom. Except for Willadine, because Willadine was her favorite. The whole family was terrified of Jeanette because they knew if you got on her bad side, she would kill you. And the sad part was there wasn't really any police in this town back then at that time. People got away with a lot back then, especially abusive or killer parents. So fast forward a few years, and 2 of the grandparents have died, and now those kids are being sent back to live with Jeanette and Willie. One way that she would torture her kids is she would buy them a pet, let them love it, and then when she got mad, she would kill and then make them bury it. She would beat these kids so bad that, like I said, Willie would have to take them to work to keep them alive. Jeanette would starve these kids, beat them, lock them in the house, wouldn't let them talk to each other. She turned them against each other. Willadine would snitch on the other kids, and she would even make stuff up just so Jeanette would beat and abuse the other kids, and sometimes Willadine abused them too. It was all she knew. Willadine wrote, "I was always my mama's favorite until I was 13, and when my body began to develop, my mom despised me. It was like she was jealous of me. She hated the sight of me." So by the time Willadine was older and her mama turned on her, Willadine now had nobody because none of the other kids wanted anything to do with her at that point. So now Willadine was on her own. Willadine said, "When I was 15, I got pregnant by my high school sweetheart. When I told my mom, she threw me through a window. She said if we didn't get rid of it, she would get rid of me. Mom said that she would not allow her husband to support my bastard. It's not his responsibility or hers." Now back then, they really didn't have abortion clinics around, so Jeanette told Willadine if she wanted to live in their house, she would have to let her do an abortion. So to get rid of this child, Jeanette forced Willadine to drink poison. She did, you know what, with a hanger. She hit her in the stomach. She even took her out to the river in the middle of wintertime and dunked her in the water repeatedly. But it didn't work, and Willadine gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. But Jeanette said one way or another we're getting rid of that child, and she meant it. 2 days later, Jeanette came into Willadine's room with 2 strangers and a handful of money, and they took the baby and left. Jeanette sold her own grandchild. Willadine wrote, "That's when trouble really started. After Mama realized she could make a lot of money from selling these babies, she basically became my handler or pimp from that point forward." Part 2 coming up, and things get even crazier with this family.